Hey there, it's Andre, the Impulsive Thinker. Today I have Wendy Brookhouse. She's the founder of Blackstar Wealth. She is a financial planner, a pseudo CFO, a money coach, and an expert in building wealth for entrepreneurs. How are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing great, Andre.
You've been on here a couple times,
hmm
and lately we've been talking a lot about building my company value or building value in my company. And I don't want to sell it. So why should I care about building the value? And then you gave me a very good description and explanation, which I think the listeners should learn about this. If I want to sell it, I got to build up the value of the company,
Yep,
right? But
yep.
if I don't want to sell it, why should I build it?
Well, that's a great question. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs are faced with, like, what is the end goal? So maybe the end goal isn't to sell it. At the same time, if we look at the things that we can do to make a business more sellable, it's all about predictability of revenue streams and the confidence that those will be able to be achieved. There's a bunch of things you need to do in the background to get to that level of knowing to be able to predict and know exactly how much revenue is going to come in and so on. So those are some of the systems and processes that you need to do from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, from a delivery perspective, all those things. And where the owner sometimes gets bogged down is they're doing all of those things,
Right.
right? So when you build a sellable business, typically the owner is not integral to the running of that business. So if you are able to build a business that can run without you, Andre, then you get to do a number of things. One is you get more freedom because if you're not in the day to day, you can work more on your business. You can be more CEO like, being about where do you want the business to be? How can I play in my unique ability more? How do I get more freedom to have times to do the things I really love doing, whether that's with my family or whatever. So you're not handcuffed to your business all the time, and that is huge.
Okay. Did I just hear you say for me to build the value of my company, I got to do less?
In the end, you will be doing less. Yes, once you have it set up to be more sellable, you will be doing less.
So less in the way of tactical tasks or stuff in the company to earn revenue,
Yeah,
but more working on the company to develop, building it, expanding it, new services,
scaling
capabilities.
it, that type of stuff. What you really, if you think about it, if you are always in front of the client delivering, or you're in every sales meeting, how do you have the time to actually execute on the bigger strategies, the things that are going to get your business to grow and scale and get to where you want it to be? We need to
So,
free you up from the day to day
so you just want to repeat that again. I think it's very key. So we must do less in order to be able to execute
on the growth.
value building strategies.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, it's taking you from, say, a manager type operation into more of the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm often drawn to the E-Myth Revisited, where there's three hats that as business owners we wear.
Yeah.
With the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. So if slowly but surely we are starting to pull the hat, like, oh, we've got other people to be the technician. Oh, we've got other people to be the manager. Now you're functioning more and more in the entrepreneurial space. That's where you're like, okay, let's make sure we've got repeatable processes. Let's make sure we're scaling. What's next? How do we make my business even better than it is right now?
Yeah, and I remember that book. There's two things that really stuck out to me on there was actually to franchise the company, mean create systems so it's repeatable, so the technicians and the manager can make a repeatable process.
Yes.
But the other one, I still have it highlighted. I always go back to it. It's the entrepreneur checks in with the store and
Yeah.
then leaves.
Yeah.
So I think that really kind of ties in the part, in order for the entrepreneurs to check in to make sure things are going smoothly, to solve any issues. If not, they're working on the company by executing the strategies.
Absolutely, yeah. And so each step, like they have to be very clear about how are they building an exit strategy from being a technician, if you will, right? That
Right.
means, okay, I'm going to have to document this. It has to be, teachable. How am I teaching this? How do people that always want to talk to me get the same answers from other people on your staff? And I think a
Mhm.
lot of too, if we think about it almost from a sales perspective, are you the rainmaker? I just did a webinar on that, because if you're the rainmaker, it means, hey, every client and you're responsible for almost all the revenue of the company.
Yeah.
As long as you're in that position, the company will only be as valuable, or only, like, from a sales perspective, there's going to be a plateau because it's just you doing those activities. So unless you can expand those and teach others how to do that, you're gonna hit a ceiling.
So yeah, so the company has to continue repeating stuff by the technicians and still be self-managed by the managers to
Yeah,
do that. And I
yeah,
really like how you term, like, so instead of exiting the company here to build the value,
yeah.
I don't know if you realize you said this, but building exit strategies from being the technician and the manager is actually our goal to build the value of a company.
Absolutely. Right. And then, because there's things that happen along the way. So we've been talking about why it's so great as a person, uh, for you as the person who owns the business to do those strategies. But let's look at from an even bigger perspective. What if something happens to you, Andre? This is one, I use this analogy a lot.
Yeah.
So you're going to get hit by the bus, but you're not going to die. All right. But the company still needs to run without you. So the more you have removed yourself or been able to build processes so someone else can execute on the technician and manager stuff, the more that likely that business is going to survive. So
Mhm.
that you're not going to be faced with having to fire sale the business,
Right.
or because you're like, oh, we can't run it, let's get it out while we can so that we can get at least a little bit of money out of this, because I'm not going to be able to go back to work for a year or so.
Right.
So you think about it from that perspective. What if you have this grand idea and you're like, oh, I want to get investors, or I need financing from a financial institution. The more you have this type of a foundation built, the more attractive you are to those institutions, because the more predictable all these pieces are, the less risky you are as an investment, or as someone they're going to lend you money to.
So, as an entrepreneur who did a startup, who's basically, which is all of our babies,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying that we have to be less of the parent of that baby. The less of a parent we can be for that kid, the more valuable the company becomes. So, I got let go of a
Yes.
lot of stuff.
And I'll even say that the real biggest thing is if you can shift your mindset from your business is your baby to your business is an asset that you are carefully, deliberately, and intentionally growing, it will
Hmm.
change how you operate things, right? It becomes I'm not asking you to throw the baby out of the bathwater, but slowly but surely start severing some of those emotional ties around your identity be tied in because it's your baby.
Right.
This is your asset. And what's interesting is when you started your business and it was just little, it wasn't your biggest asset. But
No.
there comes a time when that value or the potential value of your business starts to become what your biggest one.
Right.
Yet we're not always paying attention to it or looking at it with that lens. So then, if someone came along and said, hey, I want to buy your business from you, let me write you a check. You're not behind the eight ball going, wow, if I just done this, it would have been worth so much more, right?
Yeah.
You are ready for something like that to happen.
Right. So, in a way, the less dependent my company is on me,
Mm-hmm.
the more valuable it is to the buyer, because in the end it really comes up to the buyer
Mm-hmm.
and what revenue they can generate from it once they own it.
Yeah. So I have an accountant that actually calls a business a black box and what it does is you put stuff in it and cash comes out. Right? So if you as the owner need to be in the black box on the hamster wheel to get that check up, to get the cash coming out,
Hmm.
to be bought with the business. So if you want
Right.
to be able to go, I'm done with this hamster wheel, or yeah, here's my box. I'm going to go build another box now. You have to be clear.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So then how can building company value improve my current business services and clients? Do you think there's a correlation there?
I think so too, Andre, because when you start applying the lens of what makes my business more valuable, you start looking very clearly and closely at the different products and services you offer. Are they teachable? Are they valuable? Are they scalable?
Mhm.
And that means on two levels. So that means, can you teach someone else how to sell it? And can you teach someone else how to deliver it?
Ah,
Right? So you have those two levels that we have to keep in mind. And if you are the person that does all of these things, then again, there's a ceiling you're going to hit, and it's just a matter of time on your growth pattern that you'll hit it. And if you're going fast, it could hurt. So,
yeah.
but yeah, so it's thinking about it from that perspective. So if we want something to be teachable, well, then we want it to be simple. We don't want complexity. We don't want maybe a product shelf of 500 things. How can we get it down? Unless you're selling inventory things and parts
Yeah.
are us. But at the same time, it's thinking of the perspective of how do you maximize the value of each and everything you do. And I think one of the other things is looking at the value pricing. Are you pricing things correctly? Right? So many people I see sometimes they look at the cost of goods sold, but they may not necessarily be looking at the value of the time that's being put into selling it, or the amount of overhead that has to be covered as well through each sale. So, we can sometimes think, oh, well, listen, that cost me 100. Of course, I'm going to sell it for 200. But maybe it's worth 500 to people, and you can actually increase your margins and have more money for your overhead.
So providing value is different than the cost of what you're
Mhm.
actually supplying. So
Absolutely.
what's the nuance between the value and the cost of the product? If we're going to use this line of thought about the product.
Absolutely. My mind is drawn back to when I got a peek behind the curtain of how much a mailbox on Outlook costs. And I think it was like $1,
Right.
right? And the tech people we were working with were charging us $10 a month per mailbox. So if you were following the pure costing model that said you should mark everything up 100%, they would have charged only $2.
Hmm.
However, I valued having that mailbox. I got $10 worth of value out of that mailbox, so I was prepared to pay $10, right?
Right.
So when you look at what will the market bear, what is the value of that piece that's coming in, those can definitely be different price points that you need to be aware of.
So yeah, value to the client versus the actual cost that it
Yeah,
costs you, and just put an X factor just because.
yeah, because it's a value thing. Like if okay, Andre, you do engineering services and you go solve a super complex problem, right?
Hmm.
Your time, it took you 2 hours.
Hmm.
However, it saved your client $100,000.
Right.
Do you think they would have spent 2 hours of your time, or would they have spent $10,000 to solve a $100,000 problem?
Right. Yeah. And the other thing too is it took me 20 years to get to the point I can do it in 2 hours. So
And I think,
there's that value of my knowledge and experience in there.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, that's like I say, there's a lot of times we can do a $500 job, but we can bill 5,000
yes,
because
the
last minute
value.
emergency, they don't get penalized for $100,000. And
Yep. And that
for
was the
them, it's
value.
worth it and it's quick.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we sometimes forget, in a lot of industries, the whole business model is around selling time. Think accountants, think
Right.
lawyers, think even engineering to some degree, right?
Oh, it's all, yeah. It's
Yeah,
all
you're going to put
time
this many
based trade.
hours. This is
Yeah.
how much my hourly rate is. So this is what you'll pay.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, if I solve this complex problem and save you $100,000, is it worth 10? Okay.
Yeah, and to put on that too, the other thing with the professional services who do hourly, as you get older and gain more experience, and their billing rates actually increase, but that's because we can do it quicker.
Yes.
It's not that we're providing more value to the company, the customer, right?
Yep.
And you know what? That's one of the reasons I do not publish our billing rates to
Mm-hmm.
clients or part of our quotations, which is the norm. I've lost jobs because I didn't put the billing rates, but it has nothing to do with it.
Yes.
There's certain jobs I can take 3 hours to do. Well, if you go to another firm, it'll be 12.
Right.
And it's about the same price. To the value of them, it's the same price, but how I do internally. But yeah. And I don't think a lot of entrepreneurs look at that way. You know what? I will buy a car that's more expensive because of the name on it. That's the value. But I will not charge that value because it doesn't seem right. Or I
Right.
don't have faith in myself to believe that there is that value.
Yes. Yes.
So also what I'm also hearing is if we improve the value of ourselves to the clients, to our
Mhm.
services, they'll build up the value all around, income, and probably better customers, I would imagine,
Yeah.
because not everyone wants to pay that value.
Right. And sometimes we can get into that situation where we have priced our services at a level that is totally what it's worth. Totally
Right.
what it's worth. But then we run into every once in a while the odd person. I just had it happen to me. I had a young engineer. He just graduated and he's got his first job. And I did his plan for pro bono
Mhm.
because he's just so he can't write the check. But
Right.
yet he is the exact same person I want as a client. He's young, he's eager, he saves his money, he doesn't overspend, and he does all these really cool things. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for you.
Right.
So I like the idea of being able to charge the value, but in my back pocket, if someone comes in that I really want to work with, that I feel would benefit but can't write the check, I can actually give that away because I have charged the right price to others.
Ah, I got you. So you're still working within your purpose to help younger people at a
Yep.
reduced rate because other people. So in a way, your clients are supporting that kind of pro bono work.
Yeah. Just like the law firms do, right? To
But
some degree.
just to clarify here, you're also not working on someone that's going to you're wasting your time. They could be a
No.
potential client, or they could potentially get better off and provide someone else's client, but you set them off on the right foot.
Right. Yeah. And they have become a client. They bought
Yeah.
products and stuff from me, but normally that's a separate kind of transaction. So,
Right. And at the same time, too, I think there's a lot of people that don't realize by doing that service, they might refer you first than the actual people they're using if they move to a different area or whatever. So
mhm,
there's a value there too.
absolutely.
So so what I'm so teachable stuff that's repeatable,
Mm,
value pricing builds up the value of the company. Was there
yeah.
another one in there?
There's all kinds of things in there. For example, what is your growth potential?
Yeah.
So when we look at, you have an existing base of clients that you provide an existing set of products to. So as you want to grow, there's a couple places to go, right? One is,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to offer those same products to some new customers. All right. So
Hmm.
that's you move over a little bit out of your comfort zone. So it's a little risky because it's new clients, but it's the same stuff. So it's not as risky. Or maybe you're going to find another product to sell to the same clients. So that is also a little risky, but still not as risky as if your next idea is a new product to a new market, because
Ah.
that's all kinds of different, right? So that increases your risk.
Hmm.
So of being able to succeed where you want to succeed. So, when you look at growth potential, evaluating your ideas on like, is it existing in versus new to see where that might map out can help you really decide where do you want to grow. And another thing I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about is how can you build a recurring revenue stream, right? Because if
Yeah.
you build out a recurring revenue stream, what you've done is absolutely increase the predictability of some of your income on a monthly or annual basis. And so there are so many different models out there. I mean, one that I think everyone will relate to immediately is Amazon Prime. And
Right. Yeah.
so, right, I write that check every year, Andre. I watch Amazon TV. I am, buying stuff on the website. And so they get that monthly fee or monthly or annual fee from me. I get all these things, but they know what they're doing because even though I don't pay shipping, I buy more from them.
Yeah, I read an article that they figured out, regular person buys 200 a year. If you do the prime, they actually spend up to 2,000,
Right?
right?
So this is, and so now not only have they built an additional revenue stream just from the subscription model that is pretty sticky, because I can't imagine giving up my Amazon Prime, Andre.
Mhm.
But now what they've done is also make it easier for an existing customer to buy more.
Right.
So when we look at that matrix again of existing client, new product versus existing, you know what I mean? So same
Well,
product, new clients.
and the world's been transforming into a subscription membership model for almost everything out there.
Our software.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All our, if you're a Microsoft shop, you're paying every month for your Microsoft, because Andre, we're going to date ourselves, but do you remember when, if you wanted to update your Windows, you had to go to Staples and get a new CD to upload?
Oh, I have to get those little floppy disks. That's
Yeah,
how back I go. Yeah. And 12 of them.
Yeah.
And 12.
It was a whole day thing. So when you think about it from that perspective, what they've done is made it so nice and easy, predictable income stream, because how many people in the past probably wouldn't have done the updates or wouldn't have gone in because it works. I don't need Windows 3.1. Windows 2.5 is working just fine for me, right? So, but now automatic.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that really got pissed me off about Microsoft a while ago was, you know what, we didn't completely design Windows properly, but we're going to have it out to you and we're just going to continuously fix it up as we go. So thank you for buying a crappy product that's not working well, and we'll patch it up as we go. And we just went, woohoo, let's do it. And we're continuously doing that.
I think that all software is a little bit like that. And if you go back to, I'm a disciple of Seth Godin.
Yeah.
Okay? And Seth Godin says you need to ship your stuff, right? You can't perfect it. And he says, if you are not embarrassed by the first thing you shipped too late. So every one of these companies now is shipping, and then they continue, then they're just incrementally improving all the time. So as early adopters of anything, we're getting shitty first draft.
Yeah.
But then it gets better.
But what I was going to go with that too is, like, I'm starting to do more coaching. I'm helping other engineers do stuff, ADHD entrepreneurs. But that's one of the things is that model actually works because as I grow, as the client grows, I grow too. And I'm learning new things. And if you're part of that membership, then you're going to get the new stuff all the time.
Right.
Right. And I think that's a mindset shift from the old days. What a subscription used to get in the mail, magazine, right? Catalogs. Yeah. Those were subscriptions, not this daily, monthly stuff that we got access to at all times. So
lifetime access things, right?
I don't know, man. I've learned there's so much here to process, but I think there's a lot of great information for everyone to take away here I like how you said, we've got to shift our mindset from the business is my baby to the business is an asset.
Yes.
Because now an asset is a tangible thing.
Yes.
It has no emotion, no ties. And to me, right, when you said that immediately, I can break it.
Right. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. And then go ahead.
I was going to add one more thing I think of, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this or edit it out. But the ADHD mind sometimes is always, you set it up, you prove it works, and then you move on.
Yeah.
In some instances, right?
Probably a lot. And then we're dragged along to make sure it keeps working and we're not interested anymore.
So what I think is, if you can learn how to increase the value of your business, what you do is you build it to, prove it's successful, get someone to buy it from you, and then move on to the next thing.
Do that, or I build my exit strategies from being the technician and manager.
Yes.
And then I can still have my fun coming up with new ways to increase business or do different things, but the company is still moving on.
Absolutely.
Right. And then also, and to do that, we need to do less in order to execute these value building strategies.
Yeah.
And we don't have to plan to sell our companies to build value.
No.
But it will help you make better informed service and business decisions. And what it really builds, what I'm also hearing is if it's more of a concentration on what the client needs and values. And if you have that clarity, make everything teachable and repeatable, there's only one solution, one result, it builds.
Yes. And then that gives you also from an opportunity filter, Andre, if you're like, oh, should I do A or should I do B?
Right.
Both will generate the same sales number, but one actually increases the value and one doesn't. Go with the value one.
Right. Yeah. So you're speaking from a lot of knowledge and expertise here. Is there something, do you provide a program or anything that can help us build the value of the company?
Absolutely. So the program is called the Business Value Amplifier, Andre, and it's a combination of one-on-one and group work. And what we do is we go through each and every one of the levers. There's 8 of them that will actually increase the value of the business and give you some ideas, some theory in behind it, some exercises to really provide clarity and almost like a roadmap to what you need to execute on to continue to increase the value.
And is this just for selling the company, or is it just building the
Oh, for
value
both. Like,
for both? So
yeah,
okay.
because with what it does is, again, going back to the first part of our conversation, Andre, as you increase the value of the business, if you're moving those levers in the right direction, you're actually getting more freedom for yourself, and you're moving more and more into the CEO entrepreneur role and starting to ease out of the manager and technician roles, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think for the ADHD brain, that's probably the best role for us to be is in the CEO or the entrepreneurial role, just coming up with new stuff, dealing with the challenges, check in with the store, but don't work in it anymore.
And so from a financial planner perspective, Andre, why this is important to me to understand the value of your business if we're doing financial planning together is it's a part of your net worth, and it can be a significant part of your net worth. And if we're working on some sort of end game to get you towards, and the business is playing a big role, the more you understand how to increase that value so that you're getting to the end goal with that piece, the better off your financial plan will work.
And that's because the business is an asset, not my baby.
Not your baby.
Well, thank you, Wendy. This is great insight. And to you, the listener, have you considered the value of your company and how you can build it? I'd like to hear back from you what you think or what you have or have not. Andre at tactical. Wait a minute. Blah, blah, blah. Let me redo the email again. Andre at tacticalbts.com. I'd love to hear about it. And Wendy, thanks again.
My pleasure. And one offer and a gift for your clients. If they would like to see how they score on those 8 levers, head over to blackstarwealth.com/value, and there's an assessment they can take.
Okay, perfect. You heard that, free. We'll put it in the show notes so it's easy for us to get to. And to you, the listener, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.